Hey guys, welcome back to the Prosta English podcast. I'm so excited and thrilled to be talking to you today. In today's episode, we are going to discuss the topic of cultural differences and culture shock. This idea came to my mind when I was preparing a presentation for our summer speaking camp. The main idea of this camp is to help our students boost their speaking skills and become more confident communicating with different people. To do that, we meet once a week in small groups and discuss some cool, interesting, and engaging topics. So, if you would like to improve your speaking skills and feel free communicating with foreigners while traveling or maybe at work, I invite you to join our summer speaking camp. You can check the details on the website, which you can find in the description of this episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. But for now, let's get back to our topic. In 2019, my husband and I decided to move to China for some time. Before that, Paul had been working in the US for 5 years, and I have been working and studying in Europe also for 5 years. We wanted to explore a new part of the world and have some adventures. I've noticed that in recent years, Asia and Asian culture has become quite popular. Now we have many travel blogs on YouTube, some travel shows, different Asian restaurants, and so on. But at the time when we started thinking about going to China, there was very little information on the internet. I remember Googling the city where we were invited, and there was just one picture on the internet, and that's it. So I literally had no idea what to expect. But as you might have noticed, I love getting out of my comfort zone. So this complete lack of information made the experience even more valuable and exciting. But my culture shock started right away when we arrived. Our bosses met us at the airport and we went straight to a restaurant. It was the first time I heard how loudly Chinese people smack, like, and slurp, like, oh my god, it was crazy and it was so disgusting. I couldn't stop thinking, come on, you are intelligent people, you have your own business. Why do you smack? Because based on my experience, only people from some rural areas or people with no education at all make that kind of sound. But as I understood later, it's totally normal for them. It's culturally acceptable, and many people, no matter their status, education, or job, do it. But to be honest, even after a year of living in China, I still didn't get used to it. The next cultural difference was waiting for me at the same restaurant. So, our bosses ordered food, and we ate everything on our plates. I don't like wasting food or throwing it away, so for me, it's normal to finish everything when I'm at the restaurant. But then they ordered another dish for us, and again, we finished everything. At that point, I was already full, but they brought out another dish. I looked at Paul and I told him in Russian so they wouldn't understand. I can't eat anymore. How many dishes are we supposed to finish? He stared at me for a moment and then said, oh my god, I just remembered. In China, if you finish all the food on your plate, they think you are still hungry and keep ordering more. So we tried a couple of bites of the third dish, and that was it. Finally, they stopped ordering more food. After that, I was much more careful about how much I ate while dining with Chinese people. Later, I noticed that in China, everything is about food. For example, I could come to the office and instead of asking, how are you? How is it going? My Chinese colleagues might ask me, have you already eaten today? Or what have you eaten today? Or are you hungry? And so on. But what I like about their culture is that they always share food. For example, in European countries, we usually eat our own meal. But in China, if you have a lunch break in an office, they often gather together and place their lunch boxes in the middle of the table so everyone can try the food they brought. And it's the same at restaurants. They usually order dishes for everyone, and you can take any food from the table that you like. That's why, in most cases, they use round tables. So it's convenient for everyone to take the dish they want. Talking about restaurants again, my favorite kind of Chinese restaurant is hot pot. Maybe you've already seen something like this. For example, even now in Gdańsk, we have two or three hot pot restaurants. But before we started living in China, I had never seen anything like this. Just in case, if you don't know what hot pot is, let me explain quickly. In the middle of the table, there is a big pot with boiling water. In our province, they usually ordered a pot that was divided into two parts. One part spicy and one part non spicy. And then you order any food you want. Again, it's for everyone, not just for one person. You can have, for example, raw meat, vegetables, seafood, tofu, noodles, and so on. And when you get all the ingredients, you place them into the boiling pot yourself. Cook them for 2-3 minutes and then eat. Chinese people usually go to hot pot restaurants with their family, friends, or colleagues. First of all, because they boil food in the same pot, which is rather intimate and uniting process in my opinion. And secondly, because they spend a lot of time there. The whole process can take 2, 3, or even 5 hours. The next culture shock I faced was again on the day we arrived. After the restaurant, where we almost died from overeating, we went to the office. And when we entered, I immediately saw people sleeping on the tables. My first thought was, oh, those lazy employees. The boss left the office and they are sleeping. But as I understood later, power naps are a big part of Chinese culture. And it's quite common to take a nap during the lunch break. Our colleagues, for example, would just hug a pillow and place their heads down on the desk. In other companies, employees can even have folding beds in the office. At first, it all looked really weird and bizarre to me, but later I also started taking a nap for 15 minutes, and I think it's actually a really healthy and recharging habit. Some additional cultural differences I faced at work. One of them was that Chinese people almost never leave the office on time. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, China has a huge population, and because of that, a lot of competition. Of course, it depends on the job, but sometimes there can be hundreds of potential candidates for the same position. So, if you finally get a job, of course, you want to keep it as long as possible. Secondly, if you stay at work over time, it shows that you are ambitious and hardworking. It gives you a better chance to be added to your boss's good book. But at the same time, based on what I noticed, Chinese people are not always productive. They often spend a lot of time scrolling through WeChat, chit chatting with colleagues, and as I've already mentioned, eating and sleeping. And in my opinion, it's better to spend fewer hours at work, but to be highly focused and concentrated. Additionally, based on my experience, Chinese people seldom think outside the box. Yeah, they are great at following the instructions and completing tasks they are told to do, but do not expect them to come up with unique, creative, or groundbreaking ideas. This is something our bosses really appreciated us for. Both Paul and I regularly came up with fresh ideas and original strategies, which were later implemented by our managers. One more cultural difference is about the sun. First of all, you will never see Chinese women wearing bikinis at the beach. Most of their swimsuits look like dresses or shorts with tops. In addition to that, Chinese people in general do not like sunbathing like we do. You will almost never see them staying on the beach soaking up the sun. They always try to cover their skin completely to avoid getting a tan. They usually hide under umbrellas, use lots of sunscreen, wear long skirts or pants, long sleeved tops, and of course, bucket hats. Many Chinese people avoid getting a tan because fair skin is traditionally associated with beauty, wealth, and high social status. If you have tan skin, it usually means you do physical work, and that's seen as a sign of a lower social and economic class. This belief comes from historical times when laborers worked outdoors under the sun, while the wealthy ones stayed indoors and kept their skin light. As the result, pale skin became a symbol of privilege and a beauty standard that still influences modern China. One more cultural difference is about sports. When you're in Europe, you see a lot of young people outdoors riding bikes or running. But in China, you can see people of all ages doing sports outside, literally everywhere. For example, every evening in all districts next to each block of flats, there are elderly women dancing traditional dances. In parks, you will always find groups of seniors practicing Tai Chi, martial arts, and different kinds of morning exercises. I remember once we went to a karaoke bar. By the way, Chinese people adore karaoke. And during the party, I saw my lady boss doing sports. Can you imagine? Everyone was partying and drinking, and she was exercising somewhere in the corner in high heels and office clothes. I mean, I can't imagine doing something like that at a corporate party. For me, it was weird, but no one even paid attention. And that's what I respect Chinese people for. And the final cultural difference I wanted to share with you today is about public transport. I know that in Japan, for example, people usually stay quiet on public transport to avoid disturbing others. Talking on the phone is generally not allowed, and conversations are kept very low. Many passengers listen to music with headphones, read, or rest quietly during their journey. But in China, public transport tends to be much livelier and noisier. People often talk very loudly, make phone calls, and even video calls without headphones. And sometimes they can eat or, again, listen to music without headphones. And also, like in many Asian countries, Chinese people often wear masks on public transport. I was surprised to learn that many of them wear masks when they are sick to avoid spreading viruses. And I would say that this is a really polite and responsible habit. And of course, sometimes you see Chinese people wearing masks outdoors. This is to protect themselves from air pollution. Every morning, they check the air quality index, and if it's high, they wear masks. That's it for today, guys. I can say that my year in China was one of the brightest and the most fulfilling periods of my life. During that time, we also had a chance to travel a lot around Asia because tickets were cheap and it took us only a couple of hours to get to another country. It was a year full of tasty Chinese food, great clothes. I love Chinese style, and all their clothes fit me well. And it was a year full of adventures and culture shocks. China will always stay in my heart because in March 2019, Paul and I started living together. And on the 25th of December 2019, in Chengdu on the TV tower, Paul proposed to me, and I said yes. I want to get back to China one day because I really miss this place. So let's keep our fingers crossed that it will happen. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this meaningful episode. Thank you for sharing my emotions and memories. On my social media, I shared more pictures and videos from that period of my life. So if you are curious and interested, I invite you to check out my Instagram and Telegram accounts. The links can be found in the description under this episode. And again, if you want to speak English confidently, to be able to travel around the world and have great opportunities at work, I invite you to join our summer speaking camp. There, you will have lots of speaking practice, great videos, and interactive exercises for boosting your listening skills and expanding your vocabulary. And also, you will be surrounded by highly motivated and ambitious people from all over the world. Check the details in the description of this podcast, and I really hope to see you there. It's a great chance to improve your English in a friendly and supportive environment. For now, have a great day, enjoy an adventurous summer, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.